Hi guys, and welcome to my Conjuring ranking. First of all, let me reassure you that there won't be any great spoilers today. I'm not planning to go into these movies in any great depth. I'm just going to say a few quick words about each one and then move on. I do, though, think that it's a good time to be doing this because apparently we have reached the end of phase one of this series, and believe me, I am appalled that they are now using Marvel terminology with Conjuring, but what can you do? So I'm going to go through these films from worst to best, as is the tradition for these types of videos. And please don't beat me up because of the order that I've placed these films in. I do tend to have some very weird opinions on most days of the week, and I'm just one man at the end of it all. I do not represent the rest of the Conjuring fandom. And you could also remember that I'm the guy who thinks that Jason Takes Manhattan is the greatest Friday the 13th film. And you could also remember that there is an unsubscribe button just below. I can't legally stop you from pushing that. Not yet, anyway. But enough waffle, let's get into it. And we will start with the film that I consider to be the worst in the Conjuring franchise. And actually, it's the only one of these that I really don't enjoy at all. Yep, at number 10, we have Annabelle from 2014. Now, before we get to the bad stuff, I will say that there are two outstanding sequences in this movie, proving that no Conjuring movie, I guess, is completely without merit. The first of these set pieces is when the cultists attack the neighbourhood at the beginning. A super scary setup, genuinely. The trouble is, I find myself in this moment wishing that I could have a Race with the Devil remake instead of a Conjuring-related spin-off. And later in the film, the scene where Annabelle Wallis is trapped in the elevator and she ends up being chased up some stairs by a demon of some description, that scene is brilliant as well. The problem is everything in between is so tedious. So we spend most of this movie with this married couple. They have absolutely no chemistry with each other. I just cannot believe that in real life these two people would ever be together. This guy spends most of the movie apologising to her for silly little things that he's done, but they're not the kind of things that really need apologising for. For her part, she's got this glum look on her face the entire time because she's pregnant and bored with her lot, and I'm also bored for a lot of the movie, and it's quite long for a film like this, like an hour 40 maybe. So I'm not that impressed with this first attempt at an Annabelle spin-off, and given that this was only the second movie in this universe, it's a wonder that they went on to have the success that they did. You could say that this is the Incredible Hulk of the... Don't! No more Marvel! At number 9, we have The Curse of you know what? I don't actually know how to say this. It's either La Llorona, La Llorona, La Rona. I don't know. The characters in the movie usually say it in this Spanish kind of way that I can't quite get my tongue around. If you pushed me to guess, I'd say La Llorona, but I'm not confident, and I've seen this movie multiple times. I might have actually omitted this one from the ranking because the director came out fairly recently and said that it's not actually a Conjuring Universe movie anymore. But you know what? He can absolutely go swivel. When this came out, it was marketed as a Conjuring Universe movie. I paid my money at the cinema purely because it was a Conjuring Universe movie. When you sit down and watch it, there is clear and irrefutable evidence that the events you're watching take place in the Conjuring universe. So the idea that this guy is just going to come out years after the fact and say, actually, we've changed our mind. We no longer consider this to be part of the canon. He can get lost, honestly. Like, I'm still including this in my ranking. I've noticed that other YouTubers are still including it in their ranking. I've still got my Blu-ray for this firmly on my shelf in between The Nun and Annabelle Comes Home because I've got them all lined up in release date order, which is probably how everybody does it, right? Right? But the movie itself is really good, genuinely. Ignore the fact that I've put this ninth. All the films from this point onwards are at least 4 out of 5 for me. I think The Curse of is really underrated, honestly. The first hour especially is full of really great scares. It's just the last act that lets the side down a little bit. It gets a little bit chaotic and random. There's no breaks between the scares anymore, and I feel a little bit fatigued towards the end. But on the whole, just on the strength of the first hour, I think this is a really good watch. If you've never seen it because of its reputation, I would encourage you to check it out anyway. I'm kind of sad, actually, that they didn't make a sequel to this one. Maybe in phase two. Oh! At number 8, we have the original Conjuring. Yes, only number 8 for this. I imagine that there are some eyeballs popping out of their sockets right now, but don't take too much offence. Don't hit the unsubscribe button. Just don't mess with me on this, all right? Don't mess with me. I might not look that scary right now, but if I did this... Huh? Whole different ball game without the glasses on, right? So don't mess with me. The movie's good, though. It's another 4 out of 5. I do really like it. This is the one that got me into these films. And certainly James Wan has directed the hell out of it and blah, blah, blah. But I just find that on rewatches, it's not actually that enthralling. It's the sort of film that once you've seen it, you've kind of seen it. And it is long. It's like almost 2 hours. Whenever I'm watching it, it usually means that I've decided to rewatch all the films again, and I just find myself looking forward to the others way more. So this is just where this one comes out for me, ultimately. And actually, it was very close between this and The Curse of Corona, and I could easily have put that other one in this film's stead. So there you go. It could have been even worse for this film. At number 7, we have The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. Now, in terms of why I've got this one ahead of the original, well, it wasn't actually my choice. The Devil Made Me Do It. But no, I just really enjoy this movie. It was criticised for straying from the established formula of the series, but that's a huge reason why I really like it. I like it when established franchises are brave enough to do something different. This is why I really like Halloween Ends as well. But this film sees the Warrens going on this little road trip, and everywhere they go, it genuinely hits. Like, whether they're crawling around underneath a house or breaking into a morgue or going into the woods, all of these scenes are creepy in their own way. I do think the legal side of the film with the guy who's trying to avoid being sent down, that's a little bit lightweight. In fact, that whole subplot is probably why this film has only come 7th. But overall, I still really like this. I did review it back in the day, and I think it was another solid 4 for me. At number 6, we have another Conjuring. This one is The Conjuring Last Rites, the most recent film to come out. I found this one very difficult to rank because I've only just seen it. It's still settling in my mind, whereas all the other films we're talking about today, I've seen multiple times, going back years. But I think about halfway up is right for this movie. I did really enjoy it. I gave it 4 out of 5, which is a very common score with the films in this franchise for me. I did have some misgivings about this film. If you saw my full review, you'll know what those are. But the scares are really good. There's good use of Annabelle. There's good new demonic forces that get in the Warrens' way here, and I like how Judy has now grown up and become one of the team herself. The family stuff is a little bit stretched out in this film. It'll be too much for some people, but I really enjoyed it, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit teary-eyed at the end when I realised that this was the end of the road for these characters that we've been watching for probably over a decade at this point. If this has to be the final one for this pair of characters, then I think it was pretty well written and executed. At number 5, we have The Nun, and please forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I have rewatched The Nun several times within the sanctity of my living room, usually when nobody else was around to see it. But yes, I have done this, and more to the point, I have really enjoyed doing this. There must be more people out there who enjoy this movie. It can't just be me. The first Nun film made £360 million or dollars at the box office. That's a huge amount of money for a horror film. I guess the obvious response would be, well, nobody knew that it was going to be bad when they paid their money, though. Well, I would say to that that the second Nun film made almost as much, £270 million. Therefore, most of the people who saw the first one stayed around for the second one. So there must be loads of people out there who enjoy these Nun films. It just seems that none of them ever stick their heads above the parapet to say so. It's just left to me to defend this little sub-series. But I really like these films. They kind of remind me of the old Hammers from the 60s and 70s, especially this first one that takes place in a monastery in Romania. I love the creepy atmosphere as the characters are just making their way slowly up to the monastery and then they're stranded in this place. There's some decent scares. Another thing this film reminds me of is a PS1 game called Kudelka, which was this horror RPG type thing. It was about three randoms who ended up stranded in a Welsh monastery that used to be a prison, really creepy environment, and you had to sort of control the characters and try and get out of that place. The Nun is kind of like that. Three people from different walks of life trapped in a monastery. And I don't know what else to say, really. The first time I saw this, I found it a little bit middling, I will admit. But I've seen it several times since, and it's just one of those films that gets better and better each time I see it. Coming in at number 4, we have The Nun 2. I was always going to put these two films side by side in the ranking because to me they are pretty much inseparable from each other, i.e. they're both really, really good. As for why I've just about plumped for the second one, it could be that I saw this one in the cinema, whereas the first Nun film I did not, I confess. I find that if I do see a film at the cinema, I form a little bit of a spiritual connection with it, an emotional connection, almost as if I've slept with the film somehow. But this also applies to bad films. For example, Fantasy Island by Blumhouse, which I sadly saw on the big screen. With a film like that, it's the type of one-night stand where you wake up and instantly regret it and you feel like your skin's crawling just thinking about it. But no such thoughts about The Nun 2, which I thoroughly enjoyed. This time around, the action takes place in some kind of religious school in Paris, and the nun is floating around causing more chaos. But luckily, Tessa Farmiga is hurriedly heading across Europe on a choo-choo to sort it all out. More great scares in this film, more great atmosphere, very little in the way of weakness, in all honesty. I really had a good time seeing this. So, yeah, crack on and make a Nun 3. Please make it happen. At number 3, we have Annabelle Comes Home. So this was the most recent Annabelle film, albeit at the time of doing this video, we're talking 6 years ago at this point. So it's possible that they've already run out of ideas when it comes to Annabelle. But I'll tell you what I think they should do with these films in the future. And I'm not saying this has to be the next Annabelle film necessarily, but one at some point down the track. I'd like to see them do Annabelle in space. I think that would be really fun. Just have an astronaut take the doll up to the International Space Station because it's a way for him to feel close to his daughter back home, who technically owns the doll. But then obviously all hell would break loose on the space station, or maybe the nun in space. Can you just imagine like a space engineer tapping away on his keys, and through the window in the background you can just see Bonnie Adams floating past in the void of space? That would be scary, right? But Annabelle Comes Home is a great little film. This concept of having several demons and ghosts loose at the same time in the Warrens' home, not just Annabelle, absolutely brilliant. And it's also pretty cool that Judy, the Warrens' daughter, gets to be the lead in this film, and she's helped by some of the babysitters. Just a really genuinely scary film that I thoroughly enjoyed. It's a good one. At number 2, we have The Conjuring 2. For me, easily the best of the mainline Conjurings, and I'm not just saying that because I'm British. I think the first Evil Dead is the best of the Evil Deads, and that's an American one. The Conjuring 2, though, is absolutely awesome. It's packed with great content, whether it's Valak in the first 20 minutes, announcing herself to the horror world with some amazing material that would, on its own, goad people into spending $360 million on her solo movie when it came out, to the crooked man in his armchair. That stuff is so great. That there's lots of really genuinely terrifying stuff in The Conjuring 2. And it's a long film that doesn't waste a single minute of screen time. I think this is about 2 hours 15, the same as the latest film that's just come out. But honestly, my attention never wavers throughout the entirety of this story. It's absolutely captivating. James Wan, for me, takes everything he's learned from the first film and just makes it even better this time around. It's a little bit sad that he would never do another one after this, but I guess he just felt that he couldn't top Conjuring 2. I think this is just about as good a Conjuring movie as you can make with Ed and Lorraine Warren. It's just occurred to me, actually, that maybe I should do a video where I just rank my favourite horror movies that are more than 2 hours long. That could be quite interesting, but that's for another day. For now, let us just laud The Conjuring 2 and how great it is. But it's not my favourite movie in this entire universe. Let's now find out what that is. Yep, at number 1, we have Annabelle Creation, a quite extraordinary sequel, given how bad the first one is. Well, it's a prequel rather than a sequel, but it's so good. It's a story about these orphaned girls who go to stay at this random ranch house in the middle of the Californian desert, but Annabelle's there, and suddenly we get all these great scare scenes. My personal favourite of which is the one with the Stanner stair lift. But there's also this creepy scarecrow out in the barn, and I'm not going to go through all the cool stuff that happens in this movie, but such a good film. I didn't see it at the cinema, and I can't remember why. Possibly all things Annabelle and Conjuring were not on my radar at that time. It could just be that I knew the first film wasn't that good, so I wasn't really looking forward to this one, maybe. I can't recall, to be honest, but it is my number 1 out of the 10 films. Do let me know in the comments how you would rank these. And I guess we'll leave it there for today. Don't forget to follow me on X if you'd like. My name there is the same as it is here, The Midnight Woodsman. I'm really looking forward to my next video because it's going to be my final review in the Children of the Corn series. It's true to say that I'm not so much looking forward to the movie as I am the end credits of the movie, because then I will know that it's finally all over. But I may end up doing a ranking for Children of the Corn as well, straight after. But that's for another day. For now, let us finish off talking about The Conjuring by saying, hope you enjoyed the list, and I'll catch you all again next time. Bye-bye.